Welcome to the Call to Defend podcast, where I hold in my hand an exact replica of the top of Josh's head. I'm Caleb, and this is Josh. Josh, how are you in your bald spot?
To quote the king from SpongeBob, it's not bald, it's thinning.
You all have no idea how long it took us to get to this point. I could not stop laughing.
I have it here in the recording. It took you almost 4 minutes to do that intro, not including your first attempt before we started the second recording.
Uh-huh. There's a tissue over there.
Which means for about 5 minutes, I'm waiting for you to make that joke when it's not even that bad. And it's getting better. Based on what my hairdresser said last time I was there.
Yeah, apparently Josh's hairdresser has been giving him stuff for it. And there are, to quote Josh, baby hairs coming back.
Yeah, she gave me like a shampoo and conditioner and a little spray. And she said there's some small hairs that are going back in. So for
our audio listeners, by the way, I was holding a donut with a hole in the middle of it. Obviously, the donut.
This has nothing to do at all with Isaiah.
Obviously, the donut itself is the hair.
I'm still lost on how this at all ties to Isaiah and mountains.
Because originally, the intro was "Welcome to the Call to Defend podcast," where you can see the glory of the Lord reflecting off of Josh's bald spot.
It's not even that bad.
It's not that bad, but you can notice it.
Well, yeah, because when you're under fluorescent lights, definitely can.
Yeah. I'm okay.
See, you just ran out of mountain puns, apparently. And
I've got more.
Apparently, you had to settle for a cheap blow.
Yeah, no, we have not scraped the bottom of the ravine. I've got more.
Okay. I'm just ignoring you now.
Dude, don't ruin the donut. I was going to put this back.
No, your hand was all over. Why are you putting it back?
All it was my hand.
Huh?
All it was is my hand.
You think someone's going to eat a donut that's been in your hand? You'll be able to hold it while you're laughing over it?
I didn't, lick it or anything.
Well, it touched your face now and your hair, so...
Well, yeah, now it did.
You're going to have to eat it now.
I really don't want it.
I don't want it either.
I'm very full.
Sprinkles and white frosting suck. It's a long intro for a podcast that's nothing to do with donuts or bald spots or anything like that. So
it can.
No,
you can just talk about bald spots for the rest of the time.
No.
Switch gears, talk about Elisha.
No.
Okay.
Not going to Elisha. We're sticking with Isaiah. You suck. Our listeners will know it.
I think, again, it's not going to be as funny to y'all as it was for me. Oh my goodness, every time I went to start the sentence, I couldn't get through it.
3.5 minutes, not including the pre-recording. Plus the prep time you need to go get the donut.
Okay, I was right in the other room. It's not like I went to Dunkin'
You were
it.
laughing while you were leaving to get the donut, so you were already breaking before then.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Anyways... Isaiah is what we're going to be looking at today. My train of thought's gone.
So Isaiah.
Yeah, Isaiah. Isaiah, I think, is where we're going to kind of conclude our Old Testament time. Because a lot of the rest of the prophets kind of fall in similar thought and mind. As he and Ezekiel play with mountain language. But I think that when we then get to see in the New Testament, it'll be a good springboard into the New Testament, basically, where we won't have as much to say, one, because it's less books, but also just because it's really just kind of doubling down on the themes with other events, and so sometimes it's not always something new to be added to the conversation in a certain way. That's not to throw it away or anything. It's just to say that, like Jesus appears on numerous mountains. And you want to, spend so much time studying all that Jesus does. When you're talking about the mountain theme, though, you kind of just get the idea okay, this is what you're going to see happen because he's on a mountain. Something is going to happen. And when you just kind of get aware of that, you're just kind of used to now looking for it. So in terms of providing a good little summary spot for this kind of travel through. So we'll hit some key ones with Jesus next time and some other stuff. But we'll look at Isaiah, which I think is a strong place to end, based on the opening chapters. So like contextually with chapter 1, we have the issue of man, I mean, more specifically Israel has like been profaning God, been going completely just away from him. At one point he's saying like, you don't want to basically be called Sodom and Gomorrah. And then he goes like the next sentence. So Sodom and Gomorrah, and he starts calling them like by that because he's talking about how vile they are. And they have effectively done what Babylon did in Genesis 11, which is they're making their own like man-made mountains, their own high spots, their own places where they can either try to beckon God down to them or beckon the other gods because God won't listen to them the way they want him to. And I mean, that's part of the reason why Babel is sometimes being used like pictorially as like this is what you're acting as, Israel.
Right.
Sometimes it's Egypt, it's like when it's like how they were treated, and then that's how they're treating other people. But there's times where Babylon, even after it's destroyed, it's used linguistically for what it is and what it's been known of, because its origin is found in Genesis 11, where it's really kind of just they built the city and they built the temple, and they're basically trying to put themselves back into the blend spot of the heaven and earth, or trying to bring it down to them rather than us being called up to it. They're inverting what God does, where God calls us up to where he is. They're trying to say, God, come down to where we are, as if they can make him come down. Or like they can contain him, because they can, in their mind, if they can build this, some people think of like, oh, if we build the ziggurat, then that means maybe we can escape another flood. That's what some people theorize. But if you think about what a ziggurat is almost their way of trying to say, we localize God here.
Yeah.
He can't because he's bound by this.
Right.
So we can
And they're
him.
building like a mountain of their own, right?
Right.
A mountain for rescue from the flood. And God's like, that's cute. No.
He's like, I already said I wouldn't do it, so take my word. But also, you're not beckoning me down here. I decide where I reside, and you're not deciding where that is. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the issue with the opening of Isaiah, is like, why doesn't it always explicitly say that? That's very much what Israel's been known for doing, because it talks like, in Ezekiel even, between, I think it was like somewhere between chapters 5 and 8, maybe it was chapter 9, where Ezekiel is told, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go actually face the mountains. You're going to chastise the mountains. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are you chastising the mountains? Because the mountains have high places built on them. So that's weird. It's like high places are an actual place, but also they're a thing that you build.
Yeah.
So you build a high place on a high place, which is then the temple, which we saw with Solomon in 1 Kings. And it's interesting where you have high places can be a good thing if God ordains it and allows it, until like the temple was reconstructed. But then when man makes it to kind of either put themselves back into the place or to get the gods to come down to them, Yahweh's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
I'm the one in charge. And it's not that I don't want to be with you, but you don't get to beckon me to come down to you, because I'm the Holy One who's trying to restore things, and you're trying to act like you are over me. And so
he is God of the hills and valleys as well, right? So the idea that you can only, as you keep using the word beckon, and I think that's a good word for it, you can only beckon God to the high place, right? Like he can only respond to you in the high place. It's like, well, no, God is omnipresent,
right?
Right? He is everywhere. He has the capability to be everywhere, I should say, and so he's not limited, right? This idea keeps recurring that, excuse me. This idea keeps recurring that, like, of the human concepts of God and how much they limit God.
Yeah. And so that's one of the issues with Israel. And then there's also, like, they're acting like Sodom and Gomorrah, so they're being called Sodom and Gomorrah. They're doing these sacrifices they shouldn't be doing. They're going to other gods. They're going against the teachings of God. And, this is all this is before Isaiah gets his, like, prophetic vision ascending in Isaiah 6, where he's like seeing the seraphim, and he's in the council, and he's in the heavenly throne with the Lord. but still, like there's some, it's still part of the prophetic literature. Therefore, there's something that still Isaiah is being directed through to communicate. So it's interesting how chapter 1 is like this very gloomy opening of the state of Israel and the relationship with the Lord and how it's all going down. But then you get to chapter 2, which has a different turn to it. And it's interesting. So in Ezekiel, I'm going to want to compare these two, compare and contrast them. Ezekiel is in from the perspective of, okay, it's as if God has left and he hasn't been back for a while. And so they're kind of like, okay, so what do we do? And so it's kind of like how God is declaring how he is coming back and why he hasn't been around. Why he's chosen not to dwell in the temple beyond those high places. And so when Ezekiel's told like to chastise the mountain in the high places and the idols and everything that's up there, is when we think about cosmic geography, which plays into even what happened during David's time as king with the Ark of the Covenant, when it was, maybe it wasn't David's time. Maybe, I think it was, I can't remember if it was David or wasn't David's, but when it was taken, it was put into another temple. And then the other god's statue was knocked over and broken. It was God basically declaring spiritual warfare, but it was going to be a one-shot for him, where he's like, this is my place now. This isn't your God's temple. I've basically overtaken your temple, and that's why they took the Ark of the Covenant out so swiftly, because they're like, nope, we don't want this here. Yeah. We don't want you taking over our temple. And so in that case, you have that there, but then Ezekiel, he's saying, go chastise them, tell them how I'm going to destroy them. Because he's saying, I'm taking over these mountains because they belong to me. I'm the creator of them. Your gods and who you bow to are out. I'm in charge. This joke that you guys think you're playing right now is over. I'm declaring war and I'm going to win. Because it's not going to be a competition for me. Which is kind of like when God declares war on you, you know you're not winning.
Right.
Versus you're like, there's no way you're going to win against God anyways, but like he might allow you to do something here and there, but he's like, no, we're going to war. You better run. And that's kind of what he's telling the gods and the people of those other, through Ezekiel to do. Is like, start running because I'm going to make you run. But then you have Isaiah, which is different. Isaiah in chapter 2 looks less at the war aspect of what God's doing in the spiritual realm and more of like the future reality of what is going to come in the restoration. And it's when we see something like Day of the Lord and stuff, a lot of our minds tend to immediately go to things like, oh, it must mean the end times. Like, that's not really how that works, especially in the Hebrew Bible. Pretty much any time, like, whether it be judgment or a fulfillment of a prophecy or whatever, that was part of the day of the Lord. And so, in this case, we're going to get something similar. It's talking about a latter day. Yeah, it doesn't mean just
Joel
the end.
Really kind of hits on that.
Joel does a lot. But it's we're going to see it's kind of about these latter days. It doesn't necessarily just mean in the end, because we're going to see that there is like an end time discussion about it, where there is that eventual fulfillment of the full new creation. But there's also even in Christ the now and not yet kingdom, where you do see that stuff being spread out into the nations. And I think we'll see that reality kind of fulfilled in Christ, even when we kind of discuss into it from like a theological, relational, spiritual language point of view. So let's actually dive into Isaiah. We're going to go to chapter 2 to start, and I'll just read like the first 5-6 verses. The word that Isaiah, son of Amos, son saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall happen in the future of the days, the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established. It will be among the highest of the mountains, and it shall be raised from the hills. All the nations shall travel to him. Many people shall come, and they shall say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of God of Jacob. May he teach us part of his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For instruction shall go out from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations, and he shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against a nation, and they shall not learn war again. House of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of Yahweh, for you have forsaken your people, house of Jacob, because they are full from the east, and of soothsayers like the Philistines, they make alliances with the offspring of foreigners. So we'll focus more on the first 4, because there's a lot of really interesting things here. Like for instance, so we're talking about this future day is coming where the mountain of the house of Yahweh, which at this point is known to be Zion, which is the mixture of the city and the mountain of Zion itself. Like they're interlocked together. You can't say it's one without the other.
Yeah.
But also Zion, I think we mentioned this before, we should have at least, is nowhere close to being the biggest mountain in the area. It's basically a little hill compared to other ones. It's like a little bump compared to everything else that's out there. And the other thing that's interesting is the Psalms sometimes talk about it being like, we mentioned before, like the center of the cosmos, theologically speaking, or also kind of like the northern place. Basically kind of like spitting at Hermon of Bashan, where that is like Babylon's mountain, kind of over there, and they're like, look at this mountain, and because it's up north, and he's like, no, this little one over here, I'm claiming it because it's Yahweh. Because Yahweh's claiming it is going to be the greatest one. And so there'll be a day where Zion, which New Testament authors play into a ton, is going to be like the greatest spot. It's going to be the house that will be established on the mountain. And it shall be raised from the hills. All the nations travel to him. And this is something that I think it doesn't contradict anything I've said before regarding Eden, but it's something I just haven't really considered before. Mm-hmm. This is really interesting. Okay, so it shall be among the highest nations. It shall be raised from the hills. All the nations shall travel to him. If we look down later, it talks about how the instruction or the Torah shall go out from Zion, and so the nations are coming to him, and the Torah and the teaching is going out from Zion into the rest of the nations. The Edenic mission wasn't to be isolated in Eden. The Edenic mission was to make the rest of the creation Eden.
Yeah.
The rest of it like the garden. And so there will be a day, and I would argue there's a sense where that day is even now, where the teaching to Zion in the now not yet kingdom, where we're connected to Christ, the nations are like across the world are coming to know who Christ is, and is going out from him into the rest of the world as well. Is that now, and yet there's still the not yet, where the new Zion has not been officially like planted in that sense. But the teaching, they're gathering for the teaching, and then they're going back out to share that teaching.
Yeah.
That is, if you're gathering the teaching, the Torah from Yahweh, that means the teaching is expanding, where from this perspective is reversing the Genesis 10:11, where the nations have been like separated. There's that day where the nations will be brought back in, and it's no longer just Israel, it is the entirety of the world. And that is what it's supposed to be, is the whole world is benefiting and feasting on the teachings of Christ and the teachings of Yahweh.
Yeah, and you see that in Isaiah 49, I think, is where it's most explicit, 49, 5, and 6.
Yeah. And then you have, it's just interesting, but I think what's also interesting is that it's kind of cool, actually. So we go back to verse 2, all the nations, so we're traveling to him. So they're coming to the mountain, they're coming to where he is. The word travel there refers to like stream flow, like water flow. So it's like saying the river as a verb. They're rivering to him, which plays into Genesis 2, where you have the waters are flowing out from Eden to the world. So nations are coming in and is pouring out like the waters of the world is. Mm-hmm. So you're getting this language where the people is being like the waters of Eden,
right,
where they're now flowing to and from him to expand this teaching. I just think it's just so interesting how Isaiah, the Holy Spirit, definitely through Isaiah, is communicating these ideas, but is no longer just an idea of just like this geographical stuff. It's regarding people. The nations are referring to the people. So like those who are outside Israel, they're no longer outside. They're now in. They're going out and they're spreading. And they're flowing like the rivers of life because they're flowing from him. Those teachings. It's just, I just think that's just really kind of cool. Where Isaiah just uses that different language for it, because some translate it as travel, which technically true. That's what it means. They're traveling. But when you're thinking about it as like it's the river flowing, well, when you think about river flowing from a holy spot, it should bring to mind that the rivers of life that are coming out of Eden. Yeah. But this idea of the people coming, I mean, it's emphasized in verse 3. Many peoples shall come, and they shall say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh. It's not many of Israel will come, it's many peoples will come. Let us go up there. And it's just like this, such a beautiful picture right after chapter 1 of like, Israel, you suck. I was like, Israel, you have failed.
Yeah.
But yet the next chapter is Isaiah saying, guess what though? God's going to bring back the nations. Which is the cry of like Psalm 82 at the very end, is that the nations will be inherited by God again, as if they're not currently, they weren't his inheritance, but they will be his inheritance.
Yeah.
Which is just plays into when you get to Pentecost, where it's a reversal of Genesis 10. Like you have the same. When you look at the map of where these people come from, it is the same regions as the ones that were falling apart in the Table of Nations in Genesis 10. So we get this beautiful picture of like, okay, there'll be a mountain and a house established in Zion. It's going to be the small hill that's going to be theologically the greatest hill. All the nations will be coming to and from it. And they will be taking from the teachings and his word, his statements, his directions, and they're going to be flowing back and forth in that way. And it's going to be many people. It's not just Israel. It's the nations, all these people, and there'll be many of them. And so he's going to judge between the nations, and he will arbitrate for many peoples. They will beat their swords into the plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation. They shall not learn war again. It will be this peaceful time. So it's just interesting how, because we know there's about 64 other chapters, plus the rest of this chapter, where he's about to like rip into them. And then also promise some good things, but also rip into them, and then promise some good things.
And that's a lot of the prophets, though.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. And it's just immediately after, it's like, okay, let me tell you right now how things are going to turn out. Let me correct you, and we're going to go back to how things are going to turn out again. But, I don't know.
Because it's good to keep them grounded.
Yeah.
But also to make sure that they know there is still hope.
Yeah. And so this ideal, this Edenic ideal, like even in Israel's failure, even in many ways we fail, that ideal is not gone, and I do think that there's that layer of which that is a now reality, and there's still a future reality where that is to come with Zion, but there's still that now where you do see the nations are being, in terms of people, are being united through Christ across the world, and they're flowing to and from him with these teachings to go out and share with the rest of the world. Sometimes we get in our own way, but you still have that image. All right, so we're going to jump now to Isaiah 4, where we get the glory of the branch of Yahweh in this little section here. So we just saw how, okay, there's going to be this day where the mountain is going to be established. It's going to be his house. There's that flowing. All these awesome, really cool things will be peaceful. Teachings are being passed through. It's what Eden was supposed to be, the Edenic mission of the going on expanding Eden, not being isolated, which, I mean, you could argue that Adam and Eve, I guess, had the potential to go do that, but then they failed before they could really get started. But then you also have Israel, who's had that mission effectively, and they just had not been doing it.
Yeah.
It's that question of like with Jonah's like, what if they cared even just a little bit to go out and share the gospel?
Yeah.
Or the teaching of Yahweh.
So jumped a little bit there. Yeah.
I know. I jumped a little bit there. I'm thinking today as a Christian, like,
right, of course,
that little bit of what if we went out?
Yeah, and even as you were talking about Isaiah 2, right? There's an obvious parallel, right, to the gospel where it starts out in this small little thing, right? As Christ compares it to the mustard seed.
Yeah.
And then he says, it'll grow, even though it's the smallest seeds, it'll grow into a tree large enough to shelter birds who will come into it. right? And so it's very much paralleling what you're talking about.
Yeah. Trees would be a fun study to look at one time. Because there's some cool stuff there too, especially with the tree of life language. Which kind of plays into where we're going with the branch a little bit, I guess. So we go to verse 2. On that day, the branch of Yahweh shall become beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the land shall become the pride and glory of the survivors of Israel. And this shall happen, he who is left in Zion, and he who remembers in Jerusalem will be called holy, everyone written for life in Jerusalem. When the Lord has when the Lord has washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion and cleansed the blood of Jerusalem from her midst. So we get the washing, the purification waters.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about like on this grander scale. You have Peter where he talks about baptism as being the antitype of the flood, which means he's taking the purification waters of baptism and tying to the flood, which means if we think of the flood as the purification of the world, then he's saying like, I'm going to purify you, I'm going to wash away. And it's what the point of the purification is, to wash away and kill that which is the vile and destructive in you. He's not saying I'm going to bring back the flood, but the idea of like that same Genesis,
the same archetypal idea,
the same idea of washing them over. So he's going to wash off the filth of the daughters of Zion, cleanse the blood of Jerusalem from her midst by a spirit of judgment and by a spirit of burning, which plays into that purification fire, where the fire burns off the things that are there. So we're not even just getting that, hey, there'll be this mountain there. It will be like, there will be a purification where things are brought back into being the righteous state, to being the pure, cleansed state, where things are right again. Now you could talk about the spiritual language that a lot of, especially in the Western discussion regarding Christianity, how we kind of categorize and understand things in our minds, about the idea that you're spiritually being washed and cleansed. But then we're talking about like how the flesh, like there's that glorification still to come. And you get into this idea of like, okay, this could be talking about like the spiritual watching and the spiritual fire. But then it does, but again, if we think about prophecy does have a specific event in mind, but you also see where it has a double or a triple fulfillment. So if we see it as like, okay, we see a one fulfillment right now in Christ, we know there's going to be a fuller fulfillment in some sense with the new creation. There's that sense also where there is the purification of the physical and the spiritual bodies together, where there is going to be that, no, it's not just like, hey, you are spiritually made alive, but you're still waiting, you're still in a dying body, but you will have that glorified body which has been that purified. It has been that set apart and is going to and fro from the mountain and walking through. And then Yahweh will create over all of the sites of Mount Zion and over assembly a cloud by day and a smoke and brightness of flame, mean fire by night. Indeed, over all the glory there will be a canopy, and it will be a shelter for shade from the heat by day and a refuge and a hiding place from rainstorm and from rain. And it's just,
of course, it's the Exodus language.
Yeah, that. Actually, I didn't even think about the Exodus language there. I don't know why did my brain didn't go there.
I was going to say the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire.
Well, I caught that part. I was like, the presence of God. But my brain didn't immediately go to, Exodus. And we were like, okay, presence of God.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, right? Because we're talking about the going out.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right on that part. But it kind of plays this. The point of getting into all of this is that, okay, so the psalmists, what we saw, they kind of played with Zion a little bit. But then the question ended up being, and we didn't get into those psalms a little bit, but I kept referencing it's like, who will ascend the mountain? Who will get to dwell on it? Psalm 15 talks about who will even just get to stay on the mountain. When you read those psalms, you're like, I can't ascend the mountain. I'm not going to be able to get to stay on the mountain. Even if I could get up there, I'm not going to be able to stay up there. Like, if I reflect on who I am right now. But then you have Isaiah who's saying, okay, there's a time where someone is going to ascend that mountain. And then that mountain will be established as God's home. And then all things will be firmly established and good again. We'll be back into what things were supposed to be. And not even just back where we're supposed to be, it'll be even greater because the mission that humans were actually given to do will actually be being fulfilled, instead of like the potential to fulfill it and then it's not being done. It will be fully fulfilled. And Isaiah is setting the table along with his peers who are also prophesying, where they're declaring the spiritual warfare against the other nations, gods, and their mountains, and saying Yahweh's going to come over and take back what is truly his and put to rest those who've been wrongfully influencing and attacking God's creation, and then those who are aligning with them regardless of what Yahweh has done. There will be that day where all that's dealt with, things will be purified, things will be glorified, to use like New Testament language, and then God's presence will be there, things will be going in and out from it, but it'll be flowing like water of life, that teaching of life, which is really what the teachings kind of deal with. It's not just this idea of like, hey, here's the moral of here's what's good and bad. It's like, or good and like good and evil kind of thing. It plays into, this is what it truly means to live life. Because if God is the source of life and he is life, he's teaching us like, here's what it actually means to live. Anything outside of that is just death and disorder. Live by the way of life. It's kind of like when you get into the 10 words, is like the first one, you shall know the gods before me. Yes, it is wrong to worship other gods before him. He's also saying those gods are not worthy of your worship, and they're not going to bring you life. They're not going to guide you anyway. So one, don't do it, because I'm the one who's actually God here, and two, they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
The second one,
which is so evident by the fact of how they're worshipped.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's all about what you are willing to give up. You know, are you willing to give up your body? Are you willing to give up your children? Or are you ultimately willing to give up your life? Whereas God says, no, I will give up my life for you.
Right. And like, or even like you have with Molech and Canaan, where like you were like putting children.
That's what I meant by, giving up your children, right?
Yeah. You have them on those statues, and which then gets into you have no other idols. Why? First off, I made you as my idols. You were to be going out and doing these things anyway. We talked about this extensively in the Image of God series. But then also, even when you are making ones, they are linked to the other, whether it be to him or to other gods. They tend to be filled by something else or by our own deceptions. Or we even use them vainfully and bring, again, like we were just talking about with further death. And the list keeps kind of going on, like with all the different ways, like here's what it truly means to live life. Like you need to be resting and worshiping. You need to be bearing my name rightly, not taking it in vain. Yeah. You need to be honoring your parents who I've given you as parents to teach you. But also parents, that means you must be teaching them rightly. Mm-hmm. Don't steal from other people. Take what I've given you, because I've given you what you need. And these words of like, let me just teach you that my commands, they're not just there to be arbitrary. Yeah. They're not there to just beat you over the head. They're there to give you life, which is why I love that the Lexham English Bible, they in their Isaiah, they put teaching instead of law. They said we're going to go up to his teaching instead of just law, because they're trying to say, no, it's not just the idea that God's going there and say, hey, okay, here's a new rule, go do this. It's like they're taking this and they're bringing out to the rest of the world the true teachings of what it means to be a human being. Yeah. To effectively be like anything short of that means that you're acting lesser than human. Right. Which is why some of the early church fathers, I think it was Irenaeus, who in his mind, and they have some interesting thoughts regarding the image of God, and some I think that's really cool, and some like that's not really what the Hebrew means, but you don't have the Hebrew at the time yet. But one of the thoughts that he was kind of going through is like that there was not truly one who was human until Jesus. And that Jesus was in a way the first true human.
Yeah, I would push back and say that at one point Adam was the first true human.
But in the idea that...
But I know what he means.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Him meaning that a human in terms of the way of living. Yeah. So like Adam obviously is like the first human made, and he was created a certain way. But Jesus is the one who's actually fulfilling that vocation. I was going to say, and even before the fall, I would say he's living in that way that is human. Right. But as soon as he falls, then he is not. Yeah, and so and the point being is that idea of like, I think what he's getting at there, and I do agree with it to an extent, is that to be acting not in accordance with who Yahweh is to not be acting as what humans are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Which is why, like, the New Testament authors, when they discuss sin, they talk about it as being unnatural. It is not natural. But yet they also say that it comes to us so easily. But it's not natural, meaning it's not God's designed order for how things are to be. It is counter. If it's counter to Him, and He's
sin
life,
is missing the mark, right? And it's, sorry, I don't mean to cut you
you're
off,
good.
but sin is missing the mark, right? And so we always think of that as missing God's mark, but we are told many times in Scripture that we can sin against ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So then, in that sense, we are missing our own mark.
Yeah. And there's even there's like at least 4 different Hebrew words to discuss it. I know there's more, but at least 4. And one of them plays into the Greek of idea of missing. But then there's another one that talks about the idea of corrupting something. So you're taking something good and you're corrupting it. You're twisting it. Mm-hmm. And all I have to say is that with the mountain language, those who can ascend the mountains are those who are truly human, which means they're truly living out who they're supposed to be. And who they're supposed to be is a human that's in relationship with God, connected to Him, and is purified, and is living out their status of being the image of God.
Yeah.
And images are supposed to be filled with their deity, which when you kind of think about the Holy Spirit as filling the people, when you get to New Testament language, where He dwells within His people, dwells within the temple, that is what Isaiah is kind of saying at the table for. Like, he's saying of all this language, like Isaiah is doing so much hyperlinking. I only mentioned like Genesis, but he's doing so many other hyperlinks to like the rest of like the Torah and other things, that when Jesus comes into the picture, He's like, I'm that and so much more that you just can't even imagine, like how awesome it's going to be. But there's just so many rabbit trails I could go down and want to go down, but I'll refrain for the sake of being concise for the focus, in that Isaiah is promising this fulfillment. And what we're going to see is that when you turn to Matthew especially, Jesus is just coming in and is like, yeah, I'm going to fulfill this right now, actually. So,
well, I mean, one of the first things He does is reads from Isaiah and says, today this has been fulfilled. Exactly.
So yeah, we're gonna go to Matthew next, and we'll go to the Gospels next, but we'll spend a lot of time in Matthew comparatively, and then hit some of the New Testament spots, and then that'll be it for the Mountain series.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to be cool beans, you can like and subscribe to the Called to Defend channel, as well as hit that notification bell so that way you know whenever we post. Go ahead and leave us your thoughts as well on how we can help you in your going out with the teachings of God. With all that said, guys, we really appreciate you tuning in. And Lord willing, we will see you in the next one.